Okay, I know Dylan Thomas already talked about this video, however, he talked about like the last 3 minutes. I had issues with the full thing. But you see, Doodletones taught me how to sound like a smart person. You just got to say things that sounds like something John Lennon would say, if John Lennon was a complete idiot. Or Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, or whoever motivational speaker you look up to. Just gotta make them so vague and water down their message so much that it sounds completely idiotic to anybody who's actually listening. Also, since in Dylan's video he wore a Pepe costume over his avatar, I was gonna wear this fedora over myself the entire video. I ended up looking like, yeah, and it kept falling off. And then, you know, the headset fell off. I could wear it sideways, but then that ruins the whole point of it being a fedora. So, I'll just have to keep my personality fedora fully intact. But the video I'm talking about is Doodletones' recent video, Ideology, Us versus Them. A video that came out 10 hours ago. I watched it about 9 hours ago, and it's one of the worst videos I think I've ever seen from Doodletones. In fact, it might be, and probably is, in fact, the worst video Doodletones has ever made. But before we really get into this video, I have to explain something right off the bat. You see, I have a certain detestment for fake moderates, is what I'll call them. For those who do not know, fake moderates are people who don't care about who's right, they care about who's louder. Basically, if you say something in too loud of a tone, they'll call you wrong because peace and justice and those other quotes that I know Martin Luther King said. I'm not going to pay attention to anything else he said, though. And calling your enemies just as bad as you is one of the most commonly used propaganda techniques. Now granted, do I think Doodletones use this propaganda technique intentionally? I hope not. If she did, then this video becomes about 100 times worse. But hey, let's talk about it. So the video starts up with this odd rhyme. It's like, oh, we speak with our hearts, not with our minds, which I totally am not doing. Or maybe my mind is just that idiotic. Although, in reality, the rhyming scheme and the fact that it's basically fake poetry, okay, bad poetry, but still, really sums up this entire video. She then talks about how America as a whole has been doing this. Not people within America, but America as a whole. She also said that he's been doing it since the start of 2017, and considering how 2017 has been going on for 26 days, I find it funny how you think a problem that you decided to make a video on, especially one as vague as this, has existed for that short of a period of time. Okay, maybe you didn't mean it like that, but wouldn't it have been more effective to say since the beginning of humanity, considering how problems like this, when boiled down with as little nuance as you do in this video, have existed since the beginning of humanity? I mean, which one sounds more powerful? This has been a problem since the beginning of 2017, or this has been a problem since the beginning of humanity. Especially considering how multiple examples you bring up are before 2017, such as the presidential election. And while true, the presidential inauguration happened in 2017, the actual election happened in 2016, and a lot of it has been building up since 2014. For the record, I'm only 20 seconds into her video. She then, about 30 seconds into the video, claims that the us versus them mentality that people have been talking about are tearing people apart, not realizing how vague of a statement tearing people apart actually is, or why people were torn apart. But of course, in Doodletones' nuanceless mind, these things are not important. No, what matters is that there's fighting. And fighting equals drama, because I totally know what the word drama means. And not only that, but even though I am uninformed about most situations involving things like drama, I'm still going to talk about it. while acting like I have more information than I actually do. Because God forbid I admit I'm not completely knowledgeable about something, or that an opinion I am not in the slightest bit informed of. In fact, I'd probably be more informed if I goddamn skimmed the Wikipedia page. Go on Express for 5 minutes. Fun fact, when I said that, it became 5 minutes in the video. I'm not kidding, look down, you'll find it. Her first example is the 2016 election, even though she said at the beginning this has been going on since the beginning of 2017, and 2016 was before 2017. Seriously, are you familiar with the concept of linear time? Of course, she fails to acknowledge that there are bad reasons why people would vote for someone like Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Or she fails to realize that there are bad people who voted for Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And that there were bad people who were third parties or were on the fence. And there were bad reasons to be third party or on the fence. Granted, there were good reasons for all of these, as well as good people on all of these. I am not saying otherwise. Oh wait, this is nuance, and Doodletones refuses to have that, doesn't she? Now, of course, you could just support whoever you wanted and not cared what other people thought. But then, what would we have to rant about? Now, am I like the only one who knows the concept of not caring about what other people think anymore? Then she mentions Christianity and how Christians hate the fact that the Bible is forced out of public schools. Of course, she doesn't mention that her on-again, off-again friend, Ed Ray, is a conservative constitutionalist. Now you might be thinking, but Ephrom, isn't that a good thing? Well, that would be true until you realize that the constitutionalists don't only support the inclusion of things like the Constitution, but also imposing biblical law. Now, of course, Ed Ray stopped calling himself a constitutionalist after Donald Trump won because his side won anyway, so he already forgot about that. I mean, I'm only assuming, given the fact that in his commentary on me, he blatantly defended the two-party system that kept the candidate he was supporting, Dale Castle, from becoming President of the United States. And defended the two-party system that's what kept constitutionalists like him from actually getting anywhere for so long. Now, of course, Doodletones might respond that she doesn't like Ed Ray right now. However, we both know that she'll be friends with her within a month, maybe? 2, tops. She then says that atheists believe that, whoa, all religious people are mentally retarded, and they're gonna convert everyone else to their religion, and that's why we're going to war. Now, this is the internet age, so I will give her there are probably people out there who said this. I just don't know who they are, meaning any point she could have is completely invalid. But hey, if she actually gave examples, that would make this less vague, and then this wouldn't sound so much like a horrible version of insert motivational speaker you like here. Also, are you claiming that there have never been groups saying that we should convert the entirety of a country to one religion? So theocracy isn't a thing. Hey, you remember a minute ago when I mentioned constitutionalists? Or, ISIS, they're a thing? And for that matter, the entire Middle East is a Muslim theocracy? But go ahead, continue giving vague platitudes that make people sound smart for listening to you. Despite the fact they're as thin as... I can't even create something that thin. Like, your point has anorexia. That's how thin it is. She then mentions the vegans versus non-vegans debate. Now, I myself am not a vegan. I eat meat nearly every single day. And I do feel veganism is not as healthy as other dietary choices, mainly fish-based diets, which have been proven by studies. As well as the fact that with the way the food chain works, considering how humans are on different levels than most animals, there's really no issue with eating them. Now, granted, veganism is the second most healthy dietary choice you can make behind the fish-based diet. And vegans do tend to argue more moral than logical perspectives. But wait a minute, I'm bringing up arguments for each side. We can't have that. That involves nuance, and that shatters your thin little worldview. Where any sort of conflict is wrong and everyone is equally bad as each other because they dare say, I disagree. Despite the fact you've made over 100 commentaries, which are just you saying, well, I disagree. But hey, I guess it's fine when you do it. But she doesn't insult people, I hear you say. Despite the fact she's called people idiots constantly in her commentaries, called the ranter's rake, I think a scumbag, I believe, and called me a dork. Now, don't get me wrong, I had no issue with you insulting any of those people. I had no issue with you insulting me. In fact, I thought it was kind of funny. However, that's the only possible distinction I'm hearing between these people you don't like and you. And even then, it's wrong. She then mentions social justice warriors and MRAs, but that's for like 5 seconds. Hey, we gotta keep things just as vague. Otherwise, people might be able to analyze what we're saying. Plus, if we don't keep things vague, it won't work nearly as well as propaganda. She then says this video wasn't pointless because no one was saying it was pointless, but we gotta make up invisible straw men because the commentary community lives in America. Or at least most of them do. Okay, that's a valid point, I'll give her that much, okay. And then she says that this also is partly to blame on the Alt-CC, because the Alt-CC made her make this rant. She actually says in the video, the Alt-CC is to blame for some of this rant. Because, you see, after Dylan Thomas made his machine that turned the frogs, or turned the lizards gay, he made another machine that forced Doodletones to make this video. Ignore how stupid that is. Doodletones then goes on to say that if you have issues with the commentary community, you are labeled as part of the Alt-CC. By who, I'm not exactly sure, but by people. Even though I've never been labeled as a part of the Alt-CC, even though I was making decently pro-Alt-CC content since I first figured out about it a few weeks ago. But I'm just one example, I hear you say. Well, there's an easy way around being debunked by one example. Don't make blind generalizations. Understand? Her next claim is that when people are on the fence about the Alt-CC, people like Darkside and Skihound force them to take sides. Now, I haven't heard Skihound mention too much about the Alt-CC, however, I only follow him via Twitter and YouTube, so maybe there's somewhere out there I'm missing. Of course, you don't provide any evidence of this, but what you gonna do? Besides point out how that makes your entire point invalid. Oh. Although, Skihound, I totally buy a Make Internet Snark Great Again hat. Because we do need to make Internet Snark great again. But that's ignoring the main problem with Doodletones' argument. That is, no one forced her to take a side. People were giving her evidence as to why they felt their side was right, and Doodletones could have simply ignored them. She then talks about how the Alt-CC became against Chambers of My Heart because she expressed issues with the Alt-CC. After Chambers of My Heart leaked private information of Alt-CC members, and that's ignoring the fact that after that the Alt-CC still let them on the Alt-CC cast. Granted, that's just information I got from Dylan. I wasn't there, and I haven't really watched much of the Alt-CC cast. However, at least I'm not speaking in vague wording. And the fact that Doodletones wasn't there either, so she couldn't know 100%. But that is actually very important. Oh, and the fact that out of all the people who expressed legitimate issues with the Alt-CC, it's Chambers of My Heart. You guys remember that bot commentary? You know, the one that was like an hour 40 dissecting Chambers of My Heart's video on the CC? And how much of a train wreck that was? Now granted, it's pure bias that I'm immediately thinking, Chambers of My Heart was wrong. However, your anti-Alt-CC bias is clearly showing as well, so don't act like you're not being biased too. And that's ignoring the fact that every human being by default has some sort of bias, but still. She also claims that people want to be 100% right about everything. And I'm just thinking, Why would you ever want to intentionally be wrong? If you're referring to egotism, then okay, but you should have phrased it better. And then she says that this vague mentality that is really much more nuanced than she will ever paint it out to be is not only tearing a commentary community apart, but it's tearing America and the entire world apart. Well, granted, so is propaganda, but you don't see her complaining about that. Now, am I right, guys? She then goes on to talk about how, you can't hold a middle ground anymore without being debated with, I mean jumped on, because we gotta make this sound as dramatic as possible, by the other side. Even though by acknowledging the existence of the other side, you are still creating more division in the us versus them mentality. Considering how it's, that side versus the other side, aka us versus them, although I guess you're somewhere in the middle, so who knows? And then she asks questions like, why did there need to be other side? Because having one side to every issue worked out so well for communism. It's because in the case of arguments, there's usually more than one side in a simple agree or disagree scenario. You do know how opinions work, right? We can't have everyone always agree 100% of the time. That one statement really sums up the problem with this entire video. And then she talks about how people who spout this mentality of us versus them have the same everyone has an opinion rhetoric. Again, she doesn't give any examples, but by my vague wording, listen to my propaganda. And then her video ends. Yeah, this video turned out to be nearly 4 times as long as her original video. What you gotta do, I had a lot to say. But hey, you get 2 nights in a row of long videos, so those of you who actually like my videos, all none of you, will be happy. And that's it. I'm Cifro Joe, and good night.